Big news out of the NBA that could change the landscape of high school and college recruiting moving forward. Welcome back to another Monday morning scouting report. We took a brief hiatus there after a crazy summer, but we're back to cover the Canadian basketball scene. So what's going on with NBA draft eligibility? Well, the NBA and NBPA have been in talks to change the draft eligibility rule from 19 to 18, once again allowing players to go straight from high school right to the NBA. Some of the best players from this past era have gone straight from high school to the NBA, including Kevin Garnett, Tracy McGrady, Kobe Bryant, and LeBron James. The one and done rule was helpful for us scouts because while we could identify the top few high school prospects, it was hard to know who was better because they weren't playing on a level playing field. Whereas once they got to the NCAA, they played against each other and we got a much better idea playing against higher level competition who would project as the best NBA prospect. With that extra 1 year of college, we were better able to rank the players. As well, you were getting a more mature prospect that had some college experience, that had strength training, and that was more NBA ready. NBA teams had to like that players got to experience a year being away from home and having to do things themselves, which obviously was going to be their future in the NBA. So why does it make sense to go back to the high school rule now? Well, these days, all the top high school teams and players play each other, whether it's on the circuits or whether it's in regular high school or prep. Teams are used to seeing the other top talent, and we have a better idea of how those levels will project because they're used to playing the top guys. It's become less essential from a scouting perspective to wait to college to actually evaluate the top talent, and you get to see them play against the other top talent while they're still in high school these days. Since we've seen the top talent play each other from a young age, and the NBA prospects have been identified from a young age, those players have now taken those opportunities and projections and focus on basketball 24/7, finding new routes like the G League Ignite, Overtime Elite, and others to play professional rather than go to school. While the rule seems like it's about to change, it's still going to be very rare that a high school player goes straight to the NBA and skips the college route. Traditionally, the guys that have gone straight from high school to the NBA that have succeeded were just so much better than the level of competition. Plus, they had the size, athleticism, and an already impressive skill set that would project to the NBA. Remember, we're talking about guys like Kevin Garnett, Kobe Bryant, and LeBron James. Even though many of the names in the past hadn't succeeded going straight from high school to the NBA, with the level of competition being implemented today, that probably won't be as much of an issue, and you'll see a higher success rate of players that actually are able to go from high school to the NBA that are going to get drafted high. And don't underestimate the impact that media has had in providing exposure to these players to the NBA. Most games can be seen on YouTube. There's social media accounts that helps bring exposure, highlight tapes, things like that for the top high school guys. It's no longer the days where you're taking someone's word for a player being good. You can watch their tape, you can go see them live, and you know that the competition is much better these days. There's no better example of a player going from high school to the NBA recently than Shaden Sharpe, who was the 7th pick in this past draft and hails from London, Ontario. Shaden was projected as a top pick, being the number 1 prospect at the EYBL. And there, he was evaluated by Mike Schmitz, who ended up becoming Portland's assistant GM. And Mike, having covered the high school scene and knowing how that talent projects, felt comfortable with his Portland team in taking Shaden 7th overall without seeing him play a college game. Now that the NBA is putting more of an emphasis on high school basketball, NBA scouts are going to start seeing how difficult it is for us high school scouts to try to evaluate if a high school player can not just go 1 level up and play for the top college teams, but actually 2 levels up and be an immediate NBA prospect. Based on what the top high school prospects want to do, NBA scouts are going to have to make decisions much earlier than they probably like to in projecting a player's future. Instead of having that buffer year where they play in college and we have a better feel for their level and how well they're growing, we're going to have to project 2-3 years in advance or even more to try to figure out if it's worth investing in that player from such an early stage. Again, this is why it's going to be so rare for a player to go straight from high school to the NBA, because there's still so many question marks when it comes to a high school athlete. And you have to be overwhelmingly better than the competition to prove that you're actually ready to get drafted to the NBA. All in all, I think it's a positive that the NBA is going back to the high school route. These days, we have much more information on the top high school players. They play against the top competition. And honestly, This move is going to make my job a lot more valuable to these teams because they're having to evaluate kids at a younger stage and actually getting to know them, doing the intel, all the background that's necessary from an early stage. For more information on the top Canadian prospects, you can subscribe right here on YouTube and follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I'm Wes Brown. Thanks for watching this episode of the Monday Morning Scouting Report.